want to talk about the Barbie movie. Maybe you could call this a movie review, but I consider it to be more about what the movie should inspire in us. By the way, there are spoilers here. First of all, nobody is really stereotypical. However, there's some sort of norm that we tend to expect, especially within our particular group. And if someone doesn't fit the norm, that person might be laughed at, put down, or ostracized in some way. And this supposed ideal that we want is the particular Barbie chosen to be the focus of the movie called Barbie. She is the stereotypical Barbie. And it makes sense because it's important to the theme of the movie. Being stereotypical is sometimes what we all want to be. Again, we're accepted if we're like others. And we don't want to rock the boat and be stared at or made fun of or condemned. But that's not being genuine, is it? Maybe for some people, those who run the show or make the rules, but not for all of us. The truth is that many people just try to be what we think others are or what will be accepted by others. Then, if or when we begin to change, to become our authentic self, people can sometimes be shocked. We saw this in the movie. When Barbie began to think for herself, her life started to go awry. The other Barbies thought something was wrong with her. Even Barbie thought something was wrong with her. She figured she was defective and sought help for her malady. We can sometimes be made to feel that way about ourselves, that we're weird or not good enough when we aren't what others call normal. Maybe we view life differently than those who think they're the perfect ones. Maybe we don't worship a God the way most people do or don't worship at all. Maybe we don't even believe in a God. Maybe we're not the color many people prefer. Maybe we're gay or trans or bisexual. Maybe our hair isn't nice and thick, or hey, maybe it's too thick. Maybe our accent is the perfect TV or radio accent we hear every day. Maybe we're poor. Maybe we're goofy. Maybe our nose is too big or our eyes are too small. Maybe we're too fat or too skinny or too tall or too short or just too much. But when we're little, we don't think much about anybody else. We're self-centered. It's girls' night, so to speak, every night. We're taken care of every day we wake up to a good breakfast and a fun day. It's hi Barbie all day long. No spoiled milk is put before us. One day arrives after the next, and it's the best day ever, just like yesterday was and just like tomorrow will be. We live in Barbie land. Somebody else, the one who created us and brought us into this world, makes decisions for us and feeds us and clothes us and shelters us. We're oblivious to the real world. But at some point in our lives, just like in Barbie's, we start to look around and think about something other than our own little world. For Barbie, it's when the thought of death entered her mind. Things started to go wrong, or looked at another way, they started to go right. Barbie was growing, she was maturing. She began to realize that life was not about having everything given to her and one day's being just like the others and one person's being the same as the others. Do you guys ever think about dying? That's what Barbie asked the other Barbies. What a question to ask when everybody's listening to music and dancing and having a good time. And actually the question should have been, do you guys ever think about living? Barbie and her friends were not alive. They lived in a fake world, and they themselves were not real. But for you and me, the question is, do you ever not think about dying? Death is always on our minds. The thought of death is ingrained in us. None of us remembers ever realizing that we're going to die. It's like we've known it forever, even though as little kids we didn't. And we worry from childhood about the death of people we love. I can remember grieving deeply because my mother would someday die. Remember the song by Joan Baez called All My Trials? It says, "Hush, little baby, don't you cry. You know your mother was born to die." We were all born to die. And it's significant that Barbie mentioned death early on in the movie. We humans are not plastic. We're real. And being real, we have to accept that life isn't forever, as it was in Barbie Land. Not only is it not forever, but it's also not perfect or ideal, as it supposedly was in Barbie Land and as it was in our young childhood in some ways. We learn that we have to deal with both the good and the bad. Life is beautiful and ugly, and easy and difficult, and happy and sad and joyful and sorrowful. Life is messy. But that's what it means to be alive and grow up to be who we were meant to be. When Barbie mentioned death, the music stopped. The other Barbies stopped dancing and stared at her. Death didn't matter to them because it wasn't going to happen to them. Again, they were going to continue day after day having the best day ever. And while that might sound good, that life wasn't real and wasn't special. It was robotic. It was manipulated. It was programmed. It was all the same day in and day out, safe, but not chosen. It wasn't living. Real life might not always be pleasant, but life in plastic ain't fantastic. Asking dolls if they've ever thought about death, why would they? The opposite of death is life. So no, those dolls hadn't thought about dying. Again, they weren't alive. And they have to be alive to die or think of dying. That line early on told us of the significance of death to humans. We are constantly aware that it could come at any moment. Yet we push it into the back of our mind and fight to be alive because being alive is all there is. Barbie, knowing about death and all the horrible things that can happen in life, still chose, when she got the opportunity, to be alive because it is the best thing, the only thing, going. Knowing we'll die someday, that our lives are finite, at some point in life, if we think for ourselves, we quit trying to be stereotypical. We quit even wanting to be like everybody else. Peer pressure loses its glow, and we stop trying to please others. We no longer think we must do this or that or act a certain way. Like Ken, we realize that we are enough. We might not be the smartest person or the richest or the most handsome or prettiest or the most successful. We also might not be stereotypical, but we are enough. Who we are is all we need to be. The human living girl in the movie, with all the angst, she was enough. Her mother, who felt that she had to hide who she really was enough. In fact, being who she really was finally took away her daughter's angst and brought them closer together. The girl needed her mother to do what Ruth, Barbie's creator, said, to accept her as she was and to stand back and let her grow. But it wasn't until the mother accepted her own self that the daughter was able to accept her mother too and quit acting out. Our true, real human self is what we need to focus on in life. It's what those around us and the world itself need from us. Ruth told Barbie that mothers stand back so their daughters can see how far they've come. That doesn't mean that the mother stops in her tracks and doesn't move forward so her daughter can surpass her. It means that the mother stands back so her daughter can breathe and think and be allowed the freedom to see how far she can go without anyone standing in her way. The mother steps aside and lets her daughter move in whatever direction she wants or needs to move. A good mother doesn't manipulate or control her daughter's life, but makes sure the daughter is free of harsh looks or words or condemnation for her choices that the mother probably wouldn't make. She makes sure her daughter is free of pressure to conform to some man-made standard. She makes sure her daughter has the opportunity to be herself, even if her daughter doesn't turn out to be who the mother envisioned or hoped. But that's what life is. Growing and even making mistakes and learning and changing into who we ourselves envision. Alan, in the movie, longed desperately for freedom to live an authentic life. Poor Alan, bless his heart, my heart broke for him. He knew that things could be different. That's because he was different. He was the only one of his kind. He hated life in Barbie Land, but in the real world, Alan could have shown. He could have used his difference to make a difference. There are three types of people in the world. First, we have those who are happy to be whatever is expected of them, or whatever the world tells them is good. They have no desire to change anything, including themselves, as they're happy with the status quo. They think they're in the best group or best situation possible. And they don't want to learn anything different or know that there is another way to live. I guess we could call them stereotypical in a sense, at least for the group in which they align themselves. The second type, like Alan, know something's wrong because they don't fit in. They don't agree with what's been told to them, and they don't accept the rules and regulations, but they're stuck where they are and can't manage to change anything or even get anyone to notice them in their pain. They might try, but it never works out. They fail at every turn or get suckered back in, or perhaps there simply is no way for them to get out because circumstances keep them where and how they are. Alan needed help, but there was nobody to help him because most of the others thought all was well. In that second group, the group that remains and goes with the flow, there are two subsets. There are those like Alan who want change but can't make it happen because they don't know what to do or they don't have the strength to make changes. Then there are those like Weird Barbie, I loved her, who can live in a stereotypical environment but somehow be themselves and nothing like the others. They don't care what the others are doing or what they think. They shine just as they are, and they're happy. They, like Weird Barbie, even love those who judge and ridicule them and are willing to do what they can to help those who ostracize them. Weird Barbie wasn't different of her own making. It was done to her. But she used her difference to distinguish herself. Alan couldn't manage to do that. He couldn't rise above his circumstances as Weird Barbie did. He couldn't own his differences and rejoice in them. Weird Barbie could remain where she was and be true to herself. But Alan couldn't. Not be happy anyway. He couldn't capitalize on his differences like Weird Barbie did. As she remained true to herself even when ridiculed behind her back and to her face. Alan needed to leave. He just didn't know how to do it. Weird Barbie didn't need to leave. She was capable of maintaining her uniqueness in a fake world. Finally, there are the people who say, whatever it takes, whatever I have to discard or leave behind, I'm getting out. I'm going to blossom as my true self. I'm going to break away from trying to be perfect or trying to fit in with these people who think they're the norm, who think they're the perfect specimens. That was Barbie when she woke up and realized that something wasn't right. We may be like the many Barbies and Kens. We may be Alan. We may be Weird Barbie. Or we may be the Barbie the movie focused on who, once she recognized that she wanted something different, made changes. But unlike all of these dolls, we are alive and live in the real world. So the truth is, nobody can tell us who to be or how to act. We have a right to decide that on our own. We get to choose for ourselves, and that's exciting and real and worthy. Difficult and sometimes scary, yes. And some who want to manage it simply are not able. But true freedom demands it. Barbie apologized to Ken for not appreciating and respecting him, and she should have. But they lived in Barbie land, not Kendom. It was Barbie's world. No man, no mother, nobody at all gets to tell us how to run our own little world. Our world is of our own making, and nobody gets to remake it for us. For Barbie, once she became alive, even a trip to the gynecologist, which we all hate, was a happy event. It was real. It was of her choosing. It also meant that she was alive. We can learn from Barbie's attitude. In her old life, everything was planned. Sure, it was easy. It's always hard when we buck the system. But Barbie chose the path of waking up each day and determining her own way of life. She chose to make her own decisions. Sure, Barbie didn't know what each day would bring, but part of the joy of life is not knowing what will transpire and being excited to see the world where the world takes us, where the day takes us, or the week or the month or the year. I remember once asking my oldest grandchild, he's 17 now, but he was much younger at the time. But I asked him what he was going to do one day. And his response was, I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't know what's going to happen. In Barbie Land, Barbie knew what would happen. Every day the same things happened. But as a living human, she chose to make her own decisions as much as it's possible for anyone to do that. Life is short. At some point, we're all going to be like Ruth, dead and a mere ghost in someone else's life. But just as we can't let other living beings control us, we can't let a ghost determine the trajectory of our lives. Whether the ghost is a mother, or our forefathers, or ancient men who left us their thoughts on religion or politics. We shouldn't even let the ghosts of our own past control us. We get to break out and shake off the shackles and think for ourselves. Ruth explained to Barbie that she didn't need permission from Ruth to become real. We don't need permission to be real either. We don't need permission from anyone to be who we are or what we want to be. Let me say that again. We don't need permission. Again, we're all going to die, so live while you can. Be your true self. This is your one shot. If you follow the path of others, the path set out for you by your parents or your friends or your pastor or rabbi or even the ghosts of your own past or whoever or whatever has influence over you, you're going to waste the one life you have and never know what you yourself could be and do. You'll die never having lived. You don't live in Barbie Land. You're not plastic and you're not clay. Don't let anyone mold you. Mold yourself. Recently, I watched a video by America Ferrera, whose character had a huge part in fixing Barbie Land after the Kens took over. She was talking about how she couldn't get parts in movies and TV shows because she was too brown or too fat or because she wasn't Latina enough since she didn't speak in broken English. So she tried to lose weight, stop going out in the sun so she wouldn't get browner, but eventually she recognized what I'm saying here. She said that she realized that her authenticity was her superpower. And we all know it worked for her. In fact, it works for all of us. But please, if you're struggling to be yourself in a world that tells you that your self isn't good enough, or right enough, or smart enough, or fun enough, or pretty enough, or whatever enough, know that it may take time to work through whatever's keeping you from being real. Life is a journey, and not only are we not all on the same road, we're also not moving at the same speed. Like Alan's and we're Barbies, your road may be bumpier or longer than someone else's. You may, in fact, be in a situation right now that you simply cannot change. You may have no choice but to conform to the so-called norm in this season of your life. Blossom at your own pace. Because you know what? Just as nobody can tell you how to be, nobody can tell you when to blossom into your real self either. So please relax and enjoy your own special trip. With all its silliness, the Barbie movie is deep. And it offers something special and something we can ponder on for weeks and months and even years to come. It encourages us in a fun and interesting way to be our true selves. And why in the world would we want or need to be anything else? Why would we deny ourselves and miss out on the life we were meant to have? That's not real. It's not really living. At least not as ourselves. It's kind of a lie. I'd like to thank my daughter, Rachel, for helping me figure out my thoughts on the Barbie movie. It was a process that took days because a lot can be gleaned from the movie. Also, if any of you are interested in 80s and 90s toys, as well as toys from the present century, Rachel's YouTube channel, at Rachel Retro, that's Rachel, Retro, will be right up your alley. She mostly shows toys like Polly Pocket, which is her personal favorite, but also talks about a variety of toys, including Barbie. Thank you all very much. Bye.